Welcome to Business Prowess with Raphael and Juanita. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. We'll talk to experts and business leaders. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Raphael is the founder of 5 unique shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Juanita Cap is a public speaker who was in the ministry for 15 years. She has extensive knowledge of various topics such as leadership and communication, and has emceed many executive and academic events. Juanita is the founder of 2 unique shows. Her life motto is never give up.
Juanita, how are you on this beautiful Friday?
I'm doing so well, Sifu. Thank you. How are you?
I'm exceptional, getting better every day. Little bit.
Awesome.
I'm excited for the show today. You know why?
Tell me.
Because we have an exceptional guest coming on. Let's bring Kathy. Kathy,
Oh.
thank you for joining us today. We're so happy you're coming to us all the way from LA, and Juanita's in South Africa, and I'm in New York. We are talking worlds apart, but we've come together to make a difference. So
Amazing.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And I love the fact that we are so connected globally in this show together. It's beautiful, the amazing power of technology.
That's it. And technology is so important in business nowadays, isn't it?
Well, I think especially after pandemic, we have all experienced, if technology didn't exist, probably we would be totally shut down during those 2 years. So yes, technology has played a real big role in our lives and in our livelihood and in our sanity.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we all want to talk about today is the holistic leadership and how that brings so much value to what we do and how we as leaders can lead.
Mhm.
I'd love to get your take on that, if you don't mind, Kathy.
Sure. One of the biggest challenges of life is not to become one-dimensional, especially when you are passionate and you're a high achiever in whatever field that you are. And that can become dangerous because you get very focused on that. And especially if you live in Northern America, Juanita, this is kind of cultural thing in here. Job becomes a big part of life and sometimes can consume life. But we all can agree that we live life first and then we have a job to serve life. And it can sometimes be reversed. So, one of the important things about the holistic leadership is that how we can look at life from a more balanced perspective, that we consider the personal growth as far as professional growth, and be able to see life in a way that we do not regret any part of it. Because we all know living with regrets is one of the hardest things to do.
Nobody wants to live with regret.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I always ask this in so many different shows and to so many different people, and I get similar response. But what is the cemetery full of?
The dreams that did not materialize, some of them.
Yeah, the dreams that people
Yeah.
did not bring forth. A lot of people say dead bodies, and I'm like, you're right, dead bodies, but those dead bodies, if they're dreams, can you imagine what our world would be like if all those dead dreams didn't die? They actually came to
Yeah.
fruition.
Mhm. Actually, there is a work of a Russian author once I was reading that he was alluding to the fact that if you want to look at life, we all need at most 6 feet of ground to finally return to it because that's the space we probably need for our bodies. And sometimes people decide to turn into ashes, which is even less space needed. So what is it that stays from us is not really anything physical. It is our memories, it's our impact in this life. It is our how we have shifted the energy of this world for us and for other folks in this world.
Yeah, it's legacy, isn't it?
The
Yeah.
legacy that we leave. And I want to deliberate on that for a moment, because when we say the word legacy, people think, oh wow, somebody leaving like a big deal kind of next monument in the world. But it can be much simpler than that. And I want to draw people's attention to that if you're a leader of an organization, or if in a team of 50 people, the way you lead the team, that is your legacy. If people go home and are frustrated and they have to burn their partner's ear off with the stories of what they are going through, versus if they go home and they feel that they are able to leave, they spend time with their kids, they spend time for themselves, they are very different legacies that you leave out of your leadership. So we all have a power to leave a legacy if we look at it in that light, and not everybody has to go and build the next Empire State.
Yeah. I love that. If you're gonna be a tyrant,
Mm-hmm.
people want to forget you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
impact, and when I think legacy, I'm not thinking 100 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking 500 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the legacy I want to leave.
Mm-hmm. Oh
With
wow.
my great, 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 great. Let's keep going, going, going. They're gonna be saying, that Raphael, he did this, or he said this, or he impacted this way. And I think that you're right. It's not about finances, it's not about how much money you make, but it's the way and how you do the things you do in this lifetime.
Yeah. And even you said that, something came to me, which is knowledge versus wisdom. A lot of people have a lot of knowledge,
Mm.
but it is not always knowledge that lets us have that kind of impact. It's the wisdom. Thich Nhat Hanh passed away not that long ago, but I don't think there is a day goes by that I do not refer to his wisdom and his teachings for my own life, to learn, to remember something that I can benefit from. So that is wisdom beyond the person's age or beyond the person's lifetime, that it stays. And I don't know how long it will last. We all see that Buddha's teachings are very dominant
Mhm.
in the word of wisdom. Wisdom stays, imagination stays too. Like there is a book, Master and Margarita. I don't know why it came to me. I mean, I read all these books, but Master and Margarita, the ideas in that book are so vivid for me, for example, because the imagination is very live. So there are different ways of living a legacy beyond our time for that 500 years that you said.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Imagination is
That's
what has driven industry. It's why we have technology.
Absolutely. Imagination and ambition.
That's it. That's it. Can you imagine if Steve Jobs had the idea of the iPhone,
hmm
but then he never brought it to fruition? He didn't talk to people about it.
yeah, and if he did hadn't decided to execute it to the point that it is now 150,000 people employee company, then
Mm.
we will be having this much access to it. It might be funny, but I traveled to Amazon this summer. And I was thinking, when I go to Amazon, we're going to be disconnected. There's not going to be internet. So I told everybody I'm going to be off the surface of the earth and all of that. And guess what? We arrived at this village. There is internet. Everybody has phone. Everybody has mostly iPhone. It is much easier to use than Android. And I was like, what was I thinking again? So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is interesting. They were very connected. I mean, good and bad about it. That there's obviously relative things, but that was interesting for me how the world has become so connected, because I couldn't have possibly made that tour with the locals if they were not on WhatsApp and the
Uh-huh.
travel agent
Mhm.
couldn't find them. So there is a lot of pros to that too.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one of the things you just mentioned is a program, and not everybody necessarily has it, but What's Up is an international calling, and it's
Yeah.
absolutely free, which is crazy when you think about it. Because imagine 20 years ago, if I wanted to call Juanita on my telephone, Juanita, I would only be able to talk to you once every couple of months because it would be so expensive. Every minute was like, what, 20, $30.
So
And if I wanted to talk to you for an
Yeah.
hour, my God, you'd be an expensive call. Now I can go on WhatsApp and talk to you for 5 hours and be fine, right? And it didn't cost me a dime.
very
Yeah.
true. Actually, I when I came to America, I come from Iran originally. So 23, 4 years ago that I came, my parents had to go to like a phone center or
Or
something
cafe,
like
right? Yeah.
to be able to call America, like somebody had to dial something for them, so to be able to call America, and that was such a ordeal because our time difference, and they live in another continent, and that was such a big ordeal. What time are you going to call so that I can be available?
Mhm.
And at that time, I didn't have a mobile. The first year that I was here, the first 1 or 2 years, so it had to be landline, and it was such a big ordeal. And it's so funny because my mom, even though she has Android and all of her things are Android, she still attributes everything to Steve Jobs. And she says, God bless his soul, that we can call you anytime we want. So that is agnostic who invented this technology. It's the user of the technology that is sending prayers to the soul of the man who came up with the idea.
Yeah, yeah. But and when we think about leadership,
Hmm.
he didn't do it himself. He didn't
Mhm.
create all of every little component to create the iPhone. What he did is he had the right people
Hmm.
connected, and that's where connections come in. Who do you know that can get this done, that done, this done, that? And then
Hmm.
so he brought all the right people together. And
Hmm.
that's leadership. Isn't that what we're talking about? Leadership. Because, come on, Steve Jobs, he was a smart man, but I don't think he could have created the iPhone by himself, right?
Hmm.
It's the people that he collaborated with, it's the people he brought together. This is why connections are so important.
Hmm. So we can put something together here for our listeners, which is leadership is a combination of having a vision and having the ability to assemble a team that can execute on that vision, which brings the idea of influence and inspiring. Because there are visionaries out there, but they might not be able to translate their vision
Mm.
in a way that can inspire
Yeah.
people to come and join them to execute it. And there can be executioners who are very good at executing, but they lack that imagination and vision that we are talking about. So part of the journey of leadership is going to be like a triangle of vision, assembling the team to execute, and inspiring and influencing folks so that they can go and deliver and execute on that vision.
Mhm. Definitely. So let's talk about how we can have that as a holistic leader,
Hmm.
as a person. And we talked earlier before we came on, and we talked about. I made a comment, and you both kind of laughed that when I grow up, I'm going to get a job, right? Because I don't believe that I work. I don't believe it.
Hmm.
People look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're so busy working, doing this, doing that. How do you have time?" And I'm like, "I think I have more time than you have." And they're like, "Well, how do you make the time?" I'm like, I don't know. It's joy. I bring joy to my life.
Hmm.
So let's talk about how we can be holistic leaders.
You brought a good point of how can we be in a position that we are actually working, not per se having a job, but working, but not feeling tired or exhausted or burnt out mentally. Because
Mm.
as humans, we all get tired, we all get exhausted. I mean, that's part of being a human. But becoming drained and feeling like you're mentally not enjoying it, that's the problem. So what happens is a lot of us, two things can happen here. I want to draw the attention of the audience to two things. One of them is we fall in love with a vision when we are 20, and we think that, oh, okay, this is the recipe of my life till I retire. Hell, wow, no. I mean, we change. I changed personally. I had a health challenge and it changed my view of the world. And I decided to go and start my own company and go a very different direction. So allow yourself to examine after some time or some decades, if you're experienced, to see if does this still feel right to me? Is it in line with what I want to do, my strengths? And the other thing is, I want to draw everybody's attention to let's know our strengths. And there is Strengths Finder by Gallup or by Marcus Beckingham that you can go and find out about your own strengths. This is a very important thing because if we really are using our strengths, it's
Mm.
natural. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, oh my God, how am I going to do it Monday morning? I always called it Monday morning syndrome. I liked my work the years that I worked for corporate America, but Monday morning, having two little kids, we have to go to, I don't know, preschool and all of that. And I physically went to the office at that time. It was before people work from home and all of these things. Monday morning was not exactly a picnic in our household.
Mm.
So coming back to the point is important to know our strengths is to see what gets up, what comes natural to us. When people are struggling with things is that when they want to see, okay, this is my weakness, how can I make it better? And it's a good thing that you want to make it better, but it will might never become your natural trait. Pay attention
Mm.
to the gifts that you already have. For me, for example, I enjoy people. And when I did that strengths finder when I was at DirecTV, it said that you're a connector and advisor. And I was like, wow, interesting. How can I do more of that? And you, at DirecTV at that time, I went and designed my work in a way, and I had a really amazing supporting boss, in a way that I could be more of that connector and an advisor. So it really helped me. Even later on, when I decided to do this kind of work, I was like, oh, that feels so natural to me. So pay
Mm.
attention to that. What is your strengths? That's where you have fun for you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Juanita, how do you do it? You're a world traveler. You're a speaker all over the world. How do you do it, young lady?
Thank you, Siva. I love what Kathy said. We had a lovely discussion before this session as well, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this session. You know, she talked about leaning on your strengths so that it doesn't feel like, it's a job per se. And we were talking about knowledge and wisdom, and I really believe that fun is a part of our journey as we grow personally and professionally. It's very important for me to enjoy what I'm doing because
Mm,
that joy that I generate, it really rubs off on my team. It rubs off on the people I work with, the people I meet, even when I travel. So when I get onto stage at a public speaking event, when I'm emceeing an event, or when I'm traveling, I really love to elevate that energy, bring the joy and the laughter, and let people see, the lighter side of life. I think it's important that we understand when we gain that knowledge, like we've talked about magnificent books in this session so far, that we realize, you feel like we touched on before we started, when we apply that knowledge that we learn, whether it's in the workspace, whether it's in a book that we read, whether it's a talk that we're attending, that we apply that knowledge so that it becomes a part of our wisdom. And when it becomes a part of our wisdom, it becomes a part of our legacy. So I love everything that was mentioned here. And I love to travel and to have joy and fun where I go. Because when I elevate that energy in a room, on a stage, when I hold that space, it's like people open up and they get the message and they feel that that changes in their heart. Holistic leaders, to me, make more holistic leaders. It's like we recreate it, we duplicate ourselves, and I think it's important where we are today in today's life that we duplicate, that we become holistic leaders, balanced and on par and focused, but that we make from ourselves more holistic leaders.
Yes. Let's make more. Let's add more to the stew, right? So we can serve
Yes.
up some more. I'm getting hungry here.
Yes. Sushi.
Holistic leadership stew. I love it. I love it.
Mm.
Yes.
Because it's and we talked about Steve Jobs and anybody else out there, Musk, for example, he didn't create what he's building. He had all the right
Yeah.
people, so he created that stew, right, of what he's building. And the other day I had a gentleman on one of my shows, and he talked about all the people who are doing something huge with their lives. The great ones are impacting more
Yeah.
people than the ones who don't go for it.
Beautiful.
So go for it.
Mm.
Don't be afraid of failure. Be afraid of too much success. What do I mean by that?
Yeah.
What do I
Wow.
mean? If you fail and you're afraid of it, you'll never know what success is. Because with all successes, I think there's so much failure. Look at Benjamin Franklin. Come on, we all know how many times he failed, but he didn't give up. And
Mm-hmm.
he was not afraid of the success because he kept failing. He was hoping,
Yeah.
and eventually he gained the knowledge to be able to give us the light bulb. Was it his idea
Mm-hmm.
initially? No, it wasn't. He borrowed it from someone else and he worked on it. So he was not the only one working on the light bulb, was he? But he was the first one that was able to sustain it, to keep it alive long enough, to keep it alive 8 hours. We all have light bulbs where we are, right?
Mhm.
How long do our light bulbs last? Right? An
Mhm.
hour, 2 hours, 10 hours,
Yeah.
10,000 hours, 40,000 hours. So we have to give reverence and thank all those people before us that make our life easy. Right now, I'm
Mm.
learning guitar, and one of the things on the I bought into a program, and one of the things that it says on top, it says keep it simple. Keep it
Mm-hmm.
simple, right?
Yeah.
To be a leader, you don't have to complicate people's lives. I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe we should complicate people's lives. You know what I think we should do is keep things simple so people can understand and they can go forward. Complex ideas
Yes.
are simple ideas put together, right? A bunch of them.
Yes.
So let's keep building this stew that we're talking about. Who's getting
Mm-hmm.
hungry? Yes, yes. So, Kathy, you were with DirecTV for a long time.
It was
What
wonderful.
was what was one of the key ingredients, if you will, that helped build you up?
Actually, DirecTV, that stay really had a big impact in my life because we had a program over there at that time for their IT organization that was how we can become fearless leaders. Talking about fear of failure, and the approach to how you can change the wiring of your brain around failure was
Mhm.
a very interesting experience for me to see in a year how different people embrace the same idea very differently. It made me examine a lot of things that I never had thought about it, like how
Mm.
much programmed I was from the get-go, that what success meant to me. And there were some aspects of life that I had not considered how important they can be. And
Mm,
that's one of the things that this idea of whole person coaching is so important for me, because experienced firsthand how you can fall, and
mm,
fall hard, if you do not pay attention to all aspects of yourself as a human. um, you can have success in one part tremendously, and all the other areas can seem successful from outside, but how do you feel inside? That was something that I learned while I was in there. But the idea of fearless leadership, that was something, one of the biggest takeaways I had from work
mm,
for them, and that experience, that people look at it differently depending on where they are in journey in life. Some
mm.
people were thinking, this is a waste of my time, just leave me alone, let me do my job. And some people were curious about it, playing with it here and there. And some people really embraced it wholeheartedly and
Mm,
went with it. So it's an interesting thing, that even this holistic leadership that we are talking about is not something for everybody, number one. And number two, people are at different parts of their journey. We all know that the teacher appears when the student is ready.
mm.
So
Mhm.
that readiness needs to be there. It's not something that you invite somebody to come and join and become. I don't think it works that way. Somebody has to feel like, I want to change, or is there something more I can explore? That
Mm.
opening needs to be there somehow.
Yeah, it's so true when you say the student will find a teacher when they're ready. And for example, you can take a horse to
Mhm.
water, but if that horse ain't
Yeah.
thirsty, it ain't drinking. It may bathe in it,
Yeah.
it might jump in it, right? But it may not drink it until it's thirsty. So the time has to be right for everyone. Because, and you said some people, when the approach was given to them, they were like, oh no, not for me. And then
Yeah.
other people dove in and they were like, yes, I'm thirsty. I want more. And so what happens is everybody has a time. We
Mhm.
all do. When is the right time? When is the calling? When are you listening? Because guess what? We all have been called to be better. The
Mhm.
question is, are you listening? Are you listening? And a lot of people, Juanita was a minister, and a lot of people only pray when things go wrong.
Mhm.
A lot of people are looking for salvation when they're down.
Mhm.
When
Yes.
they're up, they forget.
Yeah.
They forget how they got there.
Yeah.
They look down at the ones who are down
Mhm.
instead of helping those who are down up. So, when
Mhm.
do we pray? When do we ask for more? When we have less or when we have abundance? Do
Yeah.
we ask for more? I ask for more every day. I can't get
Yeah.
enough. And it's not about money, is it?
Hmm.
What is it for you, Kathy?
It is this feeling that I'm flowing in life.
Mm.
Because being stuck is one of the hardest things.
Mm.
So having that flow is a big key for me. But to your point, there is a practice, loving kindness, that you do not need to wait for anything to happen. It's a practice of opening your heart
Mm.
to think of other people,
Right.
to think of. I mean, I like that idea of thinking other of other people in your heart, and sending them whatever you think is right, whether it's health, whether it's happiness, whatever it is. I don't think anybody can tell me they want less of happiness, they want less of success, they want less of feeling on a stock. I don't think anybody can tell me that,
Mm.
especially in the world that we live right now.
Right.
That peace and harmony seems to be jeopardized considerably.
Mm.
So yeah,
Mm.
that is what
You
choice.
know, when you just talked about peace, I thought of Gaza right now. What
Yeah.
those people must be
Mm.
going through, the ones who are being captive. How are they being a leader within themselves? Because they're in a scary situation. We don't know what they're going through, what they're being put through, and it's got to be hard. But their faith and our faith that they'll come out of it okay, that they'll come out on the other side better for it, if anything, right? Because we always got to think there's got to be a better outcome, right? We So I pray for all those hostages that they come out good at the end, that they come out in a good place mentally, right? Because that's got to be traumatic. They're away from their
Mm.
families, they're captured. Who knows if they're eating well? Who knows all these different things? So my heart goes out to them. So as a leader, I'm sure there's leaders in there who were managing other people, but now they have to
Mhm.
manage their own feelings, their own desires, their own fears. I know I'm getting a little deep, I apologize. But
Yes.
but I think that we as leaders should also think of what are we doing in our world to impact people in a better way.
I think this is an example of a failed leadership, in my opinion, from
Mm.
all aspects that
Oh
is
yeah.
involved in it, because there is a way to negotiate and talk, and for years they haven't been able to do that, and so both parties are suffering tremendously.
Mhm.
Not only those both parties in that geolocation, but all their people around the world, because these all people have families. And
Mhm.
even as a
Mm.
human, seeing all what is happening, I think it is disheartening to see. And we all have failed as humanity, and these leaders have tremendously failed
Mhm.
from all aspects. And yeah, we can argue that some, I don't know if there is leadership in here, some from some parts of it. I really don't know. There is a deeper thing that I'm not an expert to really look into that. I'm looking at it from an outsider,
Mhm.
because this should be discussed by somebody that has studied that region and their
Right.
dynamics in depth, which I'm not that person. But what I can see as a human from outside is the suffering, and that the war is never an answer to anything in
Mhm.
this world. War is nothing but misery ever. And that history has proven that over and over again. So that's what I see.
Thank you for your opinion, of course. And the opinion that I shared before was mine
Mm,
because I'm
Mhm.
also an outsider. I'm not an expert, but sometimes as leaders is we can learn from what's going on.
mm,
We can learn how we need to treat those people around us, either the people who are following us, because I always tell people in order to be a great leader, you need to be an amazing follower, right? To be a holistic leader, you have to have empathy.
mhm,
You also have to have fun, right? So one of the topics this morning I did a show, and I was the show basis was let it go, let
mm,
everything go,
Mhm.
and go enjoy life, right?
mhm,
People
Yeah.
at the end of the week, Friday, they're like, I can't wait for the weekend. And one of my mentors said to me, why do you call it a weekend? Aren't you getting weak? I'm like, huh, that's a good thought. So he goes, don't call it a weekend, call it a strong end to the finishing of your week. So now you can have an amazing Saturday, amazing Sunday. And one thing you said earlier, which kind of made me think how Mondays were tough on people, especially if they have kids, if they have to go to work, they get pulled away from their fun, right? And then they have to go and work. And it's, I think it's the mindset, because they have to go to work instead of saying, I get to go to work. So it's changed that word, I get, instead of I must, right? And then also think about it. You're going to get a vacation from your kids for a little while. So, and they get a vacation from you. So, so when we have that separation of Monday morning, where we get to go do something different, and your kids get to go do something different, we all get the opportunity to make our world better. But if we don't think of it that way, then Monday mornings are terrible, and they should be exciting. They should be fun
Yeah.
filled. It should be a day to celebrate. It's like, woof, I get to go to work. I get to enjoy my family because of the work I'm going to do. They're going to be able to have food on the table. They're going to be able to enjoy. We're going to go on vacation. So all of these different things, I think it's the mindset. And for young people,
Yeah.
they don't have that mindset yet. All they do is like, oh, gotta go to work. Oh, gotta go to school. It's terrible. I hate school. My gosh, I love school. Every day I get to learn something. That's how I get better.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to add, Sifu, we were talking, Cassie was also talking about the fear of failure earlier. And I was thinking, during the years of the ministry, what I found with my studies and my research with people and just connecting with them, sometimes the problem is that people don't realize they fear something because they failed at it. And when they fail, they internalize it, right? So then they feel they are the failure instead of seeing it for what it is, that they are a human being that's learning and growing, and they failed at a certain task, but that failure can turn into victory as time progresses. And I think a lot of people should realize that they can get liberated from that fear the moment they voice it. I've seen a lot of people struggling with a certain fear for decades because they hide away, they don't talk about it, they don't voice it, so no one reaches out to help them because they have that fear that they are the failure. The moment that you speak about those fears that you have, that you speak about the failures that you've been through, you take away that power of that fear and you enable and empower yourself to do better, to be better. So I think it's very important that we realize that. And I also thought about entrepreneurship and leadership. It's very difficult. There's a lot of leaders out there that have roles in the military, that have roles in the government. They make difficult decisions every single day. And, I really have empathy for them as well, because I agree that war is ugly and that we should really have compassion on our fellow man. And then there was one last point that I just wanted to raise, and that was, we do what we do. Sometimes people are in entrepreneurship because they want to, they want to have the power of money. It's one of two things. They either want to have the power of money or they want to have the freedom of money. And I think it's good that we, as we develop along our entrepreneurial road and as leaders as well, as holistic leaders, that we put our focus on, is it power that we're after, or is it that freedom and that fulfillment that will help us to become better so that we can show up better for others?
Mm, great points. Power or freedom?
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Which one do you want? I'm asking my audience, what do you want? If you had a choice, you can only choose one. what would you choose? I know what I would choose.
Yeah. Me too.
What do you think I would choose?
That's not very hard to guess.
Freedom.
That's it right there. Because then I would have the freedom
It's
to
the same for
empower
me.
other people, right?
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I got to tell you, I am blessed. I am blessed to know the people I know, to walk the earth the way I'm able to walk it, to make a difference in other people's lives, to know Kathy, and I'm getting to know Kathy a little bit more, to know you, Juanita. I am blessed every day. I wake up blessed. Why?
Yeah.
Because of the way I live my life. I live with that freedom every day.
Mm.
We all have choices, don't we?
Mhm.
As a leader, you have a
Yeah.
choice. What kind of leader are you? So, questions. Sometimes some questions are best left unsaid, right? Because people will answer it themselves, right? So, a lot of times when
Mm.
somebody asks me a question, I'm like, great, great question. And then I ask them why they even asked that question. And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden they start answering it for themselves. And I'm like, see, you didn't need me. You
They
just
have the
need me
answer.
to help and guide you to what you already know, right? So where's the knowledge that we all have if we don't use it to answer our own questions sometimes?
Yeah.
I know I went a little deep. I'm sorry.
Love it.
Kathy's deep in
Yeah, we
thought,
have
and I
something.
can see that. Go
Because
ahead.
I believe humans always have the answers in themselves for
Mm,
themselves. It is just we do not have enough time in this lifetime to sometimes dig it on our own.
mm.
That's why
Mm.
coaching was invented as a profession, so that you can hold the space so a person can dig deeper and find those answers. Because people have their own answer.
They do. They do.
Always.
You know, I've been
Into that.
accused of always answering a question with a question.
Mm.
And they're like, you always answer with a question. Why do you do that?
Mhm.
I said, because I'm looking for the answer.
Mhm.
Like, huh?
Mhm.
What do you mean? So
Perspective. Yeah. Awesome.
it's because if I give you the answer, I may know the answer, but did you really want to hear it from me? Or did you want to hear it and believe it for yourself? Because a lot of people
Mhm.
will not believe someone else. So the greatest thing about a salesperson is to let the person sell themselves, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I always do that.
Mhm.
When somebody wants to buy something from me, I want to know why. Why me? Why my product? What makes me so special that you even want it? They're like, well, and then they start answering it. And I'm like, okay. And why should you go somewhere else? Well, because of this. Okay. Okay, now you do the comparison. Where should you shop? And if they want what I have, they've already answered it. And so they'll go ahead and go, here's my credit card, or here's my sign the contract. So it's all about, as a leader, I think that even if we're not leading our team, but we're leading a client to become a client or
Mm.
a prospective client to become that client.
Yeah.
I think we need to even lead a prospect into the decision to become a client. Thoughts?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that approach, Sifu. It's like, doing the sale also, and in the same frame and order, in the same instance, getting to know the person, but also doing market research, because inevitably their answers are going to give you clarity about what differentiates you and your business from, someone else that's offering the same service. So I love that approach. It's multidimensional, and I think it also assists us to grow in a personal capacity as well as a professional capacity. So it's very good to really look at things from a lot of angles. And I agree with Kathy 100%. People have the answers within themselves. And Sifu, you made a good point. Sometimes they just need us to prod them on a little bit. They just want to hear themselves voice it before they believe it, because when they believe it, they are going to act out on it.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
So, Kathy, we're basically wrapping up the show right now. What throughout this whole conversation, what has been one or two things that you said, it made you think? Because I see you're a thinker. I can see that.
Mhm. There was a lot of moments that made me think, but I think I don't know if you shared it in the show or you shared it before we started, but I really liked your practice of gratitude.
No, I didn't share it.
But you shared that you pray, I think, in the show, and I really like that practice personally, and really think that's something that it's a good practice to have in life.
Mm,
Be able to reflect on what is it that we feel is right for us so that we can be grateful for it.
mhm,
um, and that practice of bringing to mind other people, because I really it really stands out for me that we are all connected in this world. So
mm,
I don't think the suffering or the blessing of other people cannot impact me, because we all live at the same time in this universe.
we do.
Geographical location doesn't matter. When the amount of energy is in a certain way, we all will be impacted by it. So these are the things, some of the things that stood out for me. I don't want to bore people with a long list of the stuff.
Yeah. So, in case anybody's wondering, we talked before the show started, and one of the things I talked about is how selfish I am. And what I mean by that is that I wake up in gratitude. I pray and I ask for abundance in my life, so that, and I pray for the gifts that I've been given, and I pray so
Yeah.
that I can continue to have more gifts. I ask for more and more because there is abundance of it. And I ask so much for me, but then in turn, I go and start going outward. So I start with me. That's where my selfishness is. I had to start with me. And then I project out towards my family, my loved ones. And then I project towards the people who are not doing well. And then I continue that projection outward. And I think that's what you talked about, the gratitude that I was sharing with
Mm.
people, because for me, my purpose is to serve. That's what I'm here for. So thank you for bringing that up, Kathy.
Sure, sure.
Well, with that in mind, I want to thank everybody for joining us. If do us a favor, if you watch this on the replay, do hashtag what hashtag
Mhm.
replay, and do us a favor, share the show with somebody who is either looking to become a leader, is a leader, or is alive, because we're all leaders. So
Mm-hmm.
lead your life
Love it.
with happiness, right? Every day, have joy in your life.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. Really
Thank
appreciate you
you
being here with
for
us.
having me. It was
Yes.
wonderful.
Kathy.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you, guys.